Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gorilla Whale, a Godzilla watch-along podcast. I am your kaiju consultant, Kevin Carpenter.
And I am a cybernetic robot built on the bones of an ancient terror.
And today
I didn't get to say my name, Kevin!
You always forget your name.
No, I was about to say it. You cut me up. My name is Kayla Knutson, and Kevin is trying to silence me.
And today we are going over the hit millennium movie, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. Not to be confused with Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
They love their synonyms.
Exactly. Well, they had to call it something different because they don't want people to get it confused with Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, because none of these movies have the same name or very similar names or weird sequels. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2? What is that the sequel to? It doesn't matter.
Well, remember, that was the name change they went with in the Western market because originally it was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla again in Japan. And then America, they were like, well, you know, we don't want people to get it confused with the other movies. So let's just call it Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, even though it isn't a sequel.
Every day I wake up and deal with the marketing decisions made 40 years ago.
So, this is an interesting movie, and if I remember right from our previous recording, I mentioned that as Kayla is a super fan of Pacific Rim, perhaps she would like this movie that also has mech pilots fighting against giant monsters in order to save the world. Kayla, was I accurate?
I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. No.
Oh.
Not this one. Not this one. I liked the other one, but not this one.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm kind of the opposite.
Interesting.
I liked Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla more than Godzilla Tokyo SOS.
Really?
Yes.
Well, time to fight.
I have a theory on why you like Godzilla Tokyo SOS more. Is it because of the kaiju that's made for the girls?
Well, it's not just because of Mothra. I thought you were going to say because there's a throuple. It's because there's Mothra and there's a throuple.
Incredible.
I'm opening up AO3 as we speak.
So we're not going over Godzilla Tokyo SOS today. Oh, and actually that's something important to bring up, though. So all of the Millennium movies, as I've repeated in our previous episodes, are of their own continuity. Mm-hmm. Except for these next two. Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS are interconnected movies. Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla is the first one, and then Godzilla Tokyo SOS is the direct sequel. But also, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla is technically an offshoot of the greater Showa timeline. Specifically, here are the movies that are canon to Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla in the movie itself, not counting supplemental material. Godzilla 1954.
Yes.
The original Mothra,
yes.
1961.
Evident in Tokyo SOS, but not in Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla.
Well, they show clips of the original Mothra and Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. Okay. There's a montage in the beginning of the movie where they use those clips from those movies.
Yeah. I watched them like back to back, kind of. Mm-hmm. I say kind of because, again, I had to watch. I had to watch Tokyo SOS in two parts, but I went from like one right into like the other. So it's
blending together.
It's a little blendy.
I mean, they're also kind of the same movie, but that's my big criticism.
Except that there's some very key differences that we will get into. Exactly.
War of the Gargantuas, which was a 1966 movie. And as of the sequel with Godzilla Tokyo SOS, 1970s Space Amoeba.
Yeah, I do remember seeing a kaiju that I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was somebody that we did not watch.
And then there's supplemental material where it's like all of the other original giant monster Showa movies also happened, but very specifically not the other Showa Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
So
just the first one.
Exactly. So Godzilla 1954, War of the Gargantuas 1966, Space Amoeba 1970, and the original 1961 Mothra, which you do not have to see, but if you want to hear Kayla and me talking about it, we do have that bonus episode that we've plugged in the past, featuring our favorite girl-friendly kaiju Mothra.
And she's beautiful.
And she's beautiful. If you want to listen to that bonus episode, head on over to our Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Digital Kaiju Studios. The link is also in the show description. Throw some money our way. You can listen to that episode, as well as a bunch of other bonus episodes where we talk about King Kong, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Pacific Rim, and others by the time you're listening to this.
Yes, we've got some exciting ones on deck we're hoping to get to soon.
Very exciting. But today we are talking about Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. So, any thoughts before I get into more of the historical context?
Well, I had very high expectations going into this. And I would not say, I wouldn't say that I was like disappointed by the movie with regards to my high expectations, but there was some interesting choices in here. I feel like the things I did not like about this movie are some of the worst impulses of this franchise. And it goes back to the characters. And we will get into that. But there was some things there was some stuff going on with the characters that I was like, ugh, this fucking shit again. Which I felt the second one did not do that, which is why I liked it. I felt like the second one and what it was doing with their characters and those dynamics, I liked a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So let's get into the historical context real quick.
Yeah.
So GMK, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, that was a success. And that movie brought back Ghidorah and Mothra. So it's time to bring back another well-known kaiju. It's time to bring back Mechagodzilla. And of course, it's because they brought back a bunch of well-known kaiju and not because it did an interesting twist on the Godzilla mythology and all that.
Yeah, no.
It's because of the well-known kaiju. So we're bringing back Masaaki Tezuka. He was the director of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. He's directing this one. We're also bringing back Wataru Mimura, and he was one of the writers for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. So now he's the main writer. He's back. So we have the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla Dream Team. And we love that movie. And also, one other person was going to be brought back, but they didn't. Anguirus was going to be brought into this movie.
God damn it!
I know.
Oh.
So
he couldn't have saved it for me, though. I don't think he could have saved. He would have. It would have helped, but I don't think he would have saved it for me.
According to one of the supplementary materials, Godzilla X Mechagodzilla 2003, Toho SF Special Effects Film Series Special Edition, Anguirus was originally planned to appear in this film to fight Kiryu, but he was scrapped. And they later toyed with the idea of having him killed off immediately in the sequel, but they also scrapped that as well.
Okay.
So this is
well, at least he didn't die.
Another instance of like, should we bring in Anguirus?
Anguirus, I will find justice for you.
But yeah, other than that, there's not a whole lot of other behind the scenes stuff on this. They were like, let's make, because we're still in Mechagodzilla year, gotta have this out in time for Christmas.
I could tell.
So it's just like, all right, let's do a Mechagodzilla. And then they just put it on screen. So on December 14th, 2002, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla is released. So the movie itself, like I said, we're in that offshoot Showa continuity, but like the greater monster continuity and not the Godzilla Showa continuity.
Yes.
Only the first one happened.
Yes.
This is Halloween style.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. Godzilla attacked, and then there's a bunch of other giant monsters that attack. So in response, Japan created the Anti-Megalosaurus Force, or AMF.
Radio?
Yeah, exactly. So in 1999, a second Godzilla attacks during a typhoon. And they're very clear that this is not the original Godzilla. This is a second Godzilla, a la Godzilla Raids Again.
We're back to the Godzilla as a species thing. Yes.
Yes. We don't.
The second Godzilla, we've all seen it.
Yes. We never need to go into the origins of the second Godzilla. No. It's always just there was another Godzilla moving on. And that's very important for this one specifically.
Yes.
So during the second Godzilla attack in 1999, Lieutenant Akane Yashiro is driving one of the Maser cannon tanks during the fight. Now, the Maser cannons, you remember those from the Showa movies.
Yes.
They premiered in the War of the Gargantuas movie, and then they were used in the subsequent Showa Godzilla movies. But those like the tanks with the big radio dish style laser cannons.
Yes.
So she's driving one of those tanks during the fight, but they're unable to damage this Godzilla. And then during the fight, she swerves and accidentally knocks a jeep containing her commanding officer and a bunch of other soldiers off of a cliff. And then that doesn't kill them. So Godzilla stomps on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a cool shot of like Godzilla roaring in the rain and lightning strikes his dorsal plates, sorry. And it's like, oh, does this Godzilla also have lightning powers? And then it does not come up.
No, but it looks cool.
Yes. But you may notice that this is the exact same character and character motivation and character intro of the main character from Godzilla versus Megaguirus.
Yes. We just did this.
We just did this.
And also, I do have to listen. Once is like, okay. Why is it always women fucking up terribly in these movies?
I mean, it's interesting that it's like for the Millennium movies, we have a lot of women main characters. They're the same character.
Yeah, that's my problem. Is I'm like, if it's gonna be the same damn character over and over and over again, I'd rather you write a guy who's a different character. Like, if you could only write one type of woman, stop fucking doing it then, you know?
I mean, we did get a great woman character in GMK, but that's, of course, not attributed to GMK's success. No, it was bringing back Mothra and King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
That's why.
Come on, don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. I noticed it was like, oh, okay, so it's another, like, the only female combatant who fucks up in the attack, gets her commanding officer and or other crew members killed, and then she has this guilt that she must deal with, which once is fine. It has nothing to, like, once I'm like, this doesn't really have anything to do with her gender. It's an interesting, like, the survivor's guilt situation of it is fine. This happening twice, I'm beginning to get a little like, I would have let it slide, except then we also have the female prime minister who steps down for no reason after the attack and is like, then the guy takes over and figures it out. But I was like, why would you? I didn't understand, even if it was, and again, if it was a male prime minister stepping down for this other prime minister, I still wouldn't have really understood why the prime minister had to step down.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like it did not seem to me like this Godzilla attack and the destruction was a failure of bureaucracy, which this is something that Godzilla, again, time warp, we've already seen and recorded Shin Godzilla. Spoiler, if you remember. We have a whole movie that's all about how bureaucracy fails Japan in the face of a Godzilla attack, but I didn't get the impression that the prime minister did anything wrong that led to this Godzilla attack. So I didn't understand why she had to step down.
It's a very quick clip, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a newscast where she's handing something off, like, literally to the other guy, and then he's suddenly the prime minister. And it's very like, wait, why did that happen?
Yeah. And like, so when we talk about sexism in the Godzilla movies, this is where, to me, it's standing out, because to me, you're doing the same character again. This is lazy writing. And it's the same female character over again. And I'm like, listen, it's the early aughts. Having one female character on the military team is standard, and I'm not gonna like blink at that kind of a thing. It's the fact that it's the same fucking character again. So I'm like, well, this is lazy writing. And then in conjuncture with having like, oh, we have this female prime minister. She's stepping down for seemingly no reason so a man can take charge. It felt weird. It felt weird, and that felt unearned. And I think I would have felt that even if it was a male prime minister, because I would have been like, why is the prime minister stepping down? Why does the prime minister have to step down? Does this have anything like how is this connected to the attack?
Well, I'm about to make it weirder.
Okay.
So, it's good that we're talking about this because this is like the scene right after the intro is the woman prime minister, Machiko Suge. She meets with the Minister of Science and Technology, Hayato Igarashi, to figure out how to fight Godzilla. The maser cannons didn't work, so they need a new weapon. So Prime Minister Suge is played by Kumi Mizuno, who played Namikawa the alien woman in Invasion of Astro Monster, and Dio in Ebirah Horror of the Deep.
Okay.
So in the original script, the Prime Minister was supposed to be a man, but then Mizuno got the role.
Okay.
As a sort of like old Godzilla actress cameo.
Yes. So it's accidentally sexist. This is where we run into the issue that happens in movies sometimes where a character will be written one way, either in one race or one particular gender or whatever, and then they cast a different actor in it, and now suddenly this character is read differently, the audience interprets this character differently, and it changes it. Because it's like, you can do something, like, famously, Ripley was originally a man, and then they cast Sigourney Weaver, and they didn't change anything, and now Ripley is considered one of the best female characters in horror and science fiction, because she was just written, like, because they just wrote her like a man, so they weren't even, like, thinking about, how do we write a strong female character? They just wrote a good character, and then they ended up casting Sigourney Weaver, and it didn't change anything fundamentally about how that character was read, other than, like, now we have a competent woman. Cool, you know? However, sometimes an actor's race or gender coming to the role affects how that role affects the context of the role. And I can't think of anything off of the top of my head right now, of course, because I didn't know about this, so I didn't, like, do my homework. But this has happened in the past where it's like, oh, they were race blind on this character or gender blind, but that particular character, the context of their race or gender ends up mattering. And in these movies, when you have so few female characters, it stands out.
Yeah.
So having the same female character and then having this prime minister role, where the woman steps down to take over the man and the woman fucked up again, it kind of stacks up when you're like, okay,
yeah,
got it. And it's not like these movies don't have a history of being incredibly sexist. So this is my feminism soapbox or whatever that I have to get up on. And I'll warn you right now, we're going to get back up on that soapbox later in this movie. Not in Tokyo SOS, though. Don't worry about it. Tokyo SOS, that was great. Everything's fine. I won't be a harpy on that one.
all they do is push away the female main character in Godzilla Tokyo SOS.
For homoerotic tension.
Oh, okay. All right. No, we'll get to that when we get to that. So, by the way, Minister Igarashi, who then becomes Prime Minister Igarashi, he's played by Akira Nakao, who played Colonel Takaaki Aso in the last 3 Heisei films. So, whenever they need a big, serious government official guy, they get this guy. Mm-hmm. So he's playing the exact same role.
Sorry, I don't understand. If he's like the Minister of Science and Technology, I don't understand why the Prime Minister ever had to step down.
Yeah, it's a very quick scene, and then suddenly he's the Prime Minister. And I'm glad that you're also confused of like, wait, did they explain or set this up at all?
I'm glad that you're also harping on it, because I'm like, okay, great. Well, it's not just me like noticing like stuff going on with the female character. Like it's just a bad move any way you slice it.
Yeah. Igarashi, he gathers a bunch of brilliant scientists to create this new weapon to combat Mechagodzilla. And this includes single father Tokimitsu Yuhara. He used cybernetics and DNA computers.
Whatever the fuck that is.
To recreate the extinct trilobite.
The DNA computers thing had me going, am I stupid? Is this something that we have? Is this an English translation for something? Do I not know? I'm not like I feel like I know some things about computers, but DNA, I was like, is it a computer that is sequencing and or replicating DNA? Is this a computer that somehow runs off of DNA? DNA is just memory storage, so theoretically you could run a computer's hard drive off of DNA, I guess.
No, this is my favorite like sci-fi explanation in this franchise since like the origin of Space Godzilla. So he explains that computers run off binary, so you only have ones and zeros. But if you use DNA, which has the DNA letters, you have more memory.
I don't think that's strictly true anymore. By the time we get to the 2000s, right?
Listen. He uses DNA and cybernetics to do cyber-necromancy, all right? Just go with that premise. That's what this entire movie hangs on.
Okay.
So they bring in the cyber-necromancer because they want to do a big cyber-necromancy. And he's like, no, I don't want to do...
It's not even cyber-necromancy so much as it is robot necromancy, I would argue.
No, they have the bones in there. This is cyber-necromancy.
Yeah, no, but it's a robot.
Yeah, but it's still a cyborg.
Oh, I see. You're saying cyber.
It's got the parts of the organic being in the robot.
I feel like cyber is separate from cyborg.
Well,
like cyber is just computer stuff. They built a cyborg.
Okay, we're getting into our like what is cyberpunk argument again, but I do believe I think if you are bringing things back to a sort of undeath using computers and technology, that's well within the area of the cyber prefix.
I have a question.
What's
cyborg robot? Either it's a robot or it's a cyborg.
It's yeah, well it Oh, is it like a circle within a circle though? Like are all cyborgs robots?
Well, no, because that's the whole point of a cyborg is they're caught between being a human or a robot.
Okay, so I'm going to all right, it's a cyborg then. Mechagodzilla in this movie is a cyborg.
Wait, I have an idea.
Okay.
It's a mech.
Well, it's a cyborg mech.
Okay.
But also then are the mechs in Neon Genesis Evangelion, are those mechs or are those cyborgs? Anyway.
I think I've confessed this before on the podcast, but I haven't actually watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. Everything I know about it is from pop culture osmosis. I've been mean, and before you get in the comments, I will watch it. I don't have, I'm watching a lot of Godzilla movies right now. I don't have any fucking time.
That's our next podcast.
Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Yeah, that's it.
But
We're just gonna watch all of them.
I don't want to wait like a year and a half to watch it.
Well, too bad. We got Godzillas to watch. So, Dr. Yuhara, he doesn't want to do the cyber necromancy mech project because he wants to spend more time with his daughter Sarah. But then the government is like, well, she can live with you in the government facility.
Sarah is also notably like, Dad, I think you should take this job to save Japan. And he's like, no, I need to spend time with you. And she's like, well, what about that baseball player who got it in his contract that his kid could come into the dugout with him? What if we do that? And then the government knocks on the door and is like, hey, you know that baseball player that got his kid, that got it in his contract that his kid could come in the dugout? We'll do that for you and your kid. And he's like, well, I guess we're doing it now.
So, by the way, was the baseball player that they mentioned at the beginning, was that Hideki Matsui? Do you remember the name of that baseball player?
They did not mention the baseball player's name in that conversation.
Okay.
But I know we have a cameo from a baseball player.
Yes.
I don't know enough about this particular baseball player to say whether or not it's the same one they're referring to.
Yeah, I can't remember the conversation line by line off the top of my head, but let me just get into this fun fact real quick. So later on in the movie, when Mechagodzilla / Kiryu is deployed, we get a shot of like a baseball player playing with some kids, and he sees the giant robot. And he's like, oh no. That is Japanese baseball star Hideki Matsui, who has a cameo as himself in the film because his baseball nickname was Godzilla.
I did actually know this because I was like, why is the San Francisco Giants player in this movie all of a sudden? And I looked it up. He's not a San Francisco Giants player. They just have the exact same uniform as the San Francisco Giants.
But this guy, 6 days after Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla comes
is a Yankee!
He's a Yankee. New York Yankees!
I saw that. I was like, wait, he immediately went to go be a fucking Yankee player, of all things.
Yeah. It's like he reached the height of Japanese renown being in a Godzilla film and then went, all right, time to go to the West.
Yeah, now I'm going to go to the fucking worst team. This is a Yankee hate podcast.
So he joins the Yankees And then baseball stadiums start selling like bootleg Godzilla merch because of his nickname. So it's like inflatable giant lizards. And it did get to a point where Toho was like, hey,
Stop it.
come on.
New York doing that specifically just a few years after Zilla. Salt in the fucking wound.
So this new weapon that they're making to fight Godzilla is a giant cyborg mecha made from the bones of the original Godzilla. Mechagodzilla, aka Kiryu, which are the Japanese letters for machine dragon.
Cool.
So this Mechagodzilla, here's the difference here. Actually, I'm going to start calling them Kiryu from now on.
Okay.
Because this is the Kiryu saga, these two movies.
Okay.
So Kiryu is remotely operated from special jets called White Herons. They look like PlayStation 1 graphics. They're so blocky. They're a lot of fun. I do hate that once again, we are getting remote operation of the thing that fights Godzilla. They should just be in the robot that heightens the stakes, but whatever. I guess we did that in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla too.
See, that's what I'm saying. In Pacific Rim, they're in the fucking robot.
They're in the robot. It heightens the stakes. It's easy.
In Neon Genesis Evangelion, they're in the robot.
And like in this movie, they do make use of the pilots are remote operating the robots from jets. Like they do make use of that in this movie. So I will give it a little bit of a pass. I hate the concept of like we are remote operating a drone to fight Godzilla. Put them in the machine that heightens the stakes. Yeah. Whatever. Akane, the disgraced lieutenant, she is picked to pilot the robot alongside the rest of the Kiryu squadron. You know, she's got that vendetta, and she's been doing the montage training the whole time.
All of it has been like physical combat too. Yeah. So I'm like, how does this? If you're not,
it's a lot of push-ups and pull-ups.
How does this pertain
running through lakes
to being able to pilot the mech as like a drone?
Right.
Like it's specific. Like in Pacific Rim, they have to work out because they are hooked up. Like their limbs are hooked up to the piloting mechanism for this. So a certain level of physical fitness is needed because it's physically exhausting to be moving the mech with like they're walking with their actual legs, you know, it's a whole thing. Now I understand a certain level of physical fitness is expected for most members in the military, but the training montage specifically being her only pertaining to physical fitness, and we were told in her whole like hearing after the incident in the second Godzilla attack, there's a whole hearing, and they're like, how does a genius pilot like you make this mistake? And I want to be like, hey, hold on a second. She's not a pilot. She's a driver. She's driving a tank / is also maybe the gunner for the tank. Normally there's a driver and a gunner, but whatever.
Yeah.
We have a weird, I'm not even going to touch the cyborg robot mech shit. Like DNA computers are already happening, whatever. But then they're like, you're a genius. And I'm like, is she? Because we've only ever seen her fail terribly. But you're telling us that she's a genius. Okay, whatever. You know, and I'm, again, like, it's possible, you know, it's still possible for somebody to be, like, a genius and then, like, choke under pressure for things to go wrong. No plan survives contact with the enemy, whatever, you know. But all we hear, she fucks up. They tell her, you're a genius. How could this go wrong? And then she's demoted to desk duty. And then she has a push-up montage. And then they're like, you're the greatest pilot ever. You're going to pilot this thing. And I'm like, but where are we actually showing any of her skill? Where is she earning any of this? This is when we talk about show versus tell, that's what's happening here, is the movie's just telling us she's great. And I'm like, no, she's not. At no point in time is the movie showing how she has earned this like reputation or earned her skill or anything like that. They don't even say, and it's like, you can have somebody be like listing off, Jesus, I mean, the lazy way to do it is to have somebody listing off all of these accomplishments that mean all of these things and all of these medals that she got before everything went wrong. You know, like what I would, again, this is kind of the lazy way to do it, but it would be better, is you have two potential recruits or whatever for this program talking, and they're talking about her, and one of them is saying like, oh yeah, she's got like this medal and that medal, and she did this and she did that or whatever, and then she fucking choked when the time came when Godzilla showed up, blah blah blah, you know. And it's like, oh, I heard a rumor that they're maybe considering her for the program anyway because of like all of those accomplishments, and there's so few qualified candidates that even with that happening, they still consider her, like they don't have a lot to pick from, so they might have to choose her anyway. And then the whole thing is like, you know, oh, she got picked because there's not like a ton of qualified applicants anyway, but she still has to deal with overcoming this. Like, obviously, this is her character arc, this is the challenge, etc. That's fine. But I still don't like, I'm not buying any of it.
There's a better version of this movie where they lean into the Kiryu has psychic resonance bit. And they're like, we need someone who hates Godzilla more than anything to be in the psychic resonant pilot chair. It's like your vendetta for Godzilla.
She needs to be drift compatible with the robot cyborg corpse thing. I agree, but that's not what we do at all.
That's not what we do with
this
movie.
That's not what we do at all.
And it's like, I want that movie. But we're talking about this movie.
Yeah, and then
I will say one very cool thing about this movie, though, is that the Kiryu Squadron, they have special hats. I gotta talk about the graphic design because I always do.
Oh, and her symbolically like not wearing the hat.
Oh,
she like won't wear the hat, and we're supposed to. I'm like, this is just a uniform violation, I think, but we're supposed to take it as, I guess she doesn't feel like she deserves the goofy little hat.
Because I want to be wearing that goofy little hat, because the goofy little hat has a little graphic of the Mechagodzilla head with
agree.
like a jet flying over it. I want that hat.
Toho, send us the AMF Squadron, Kiryu Squadron hats. I'll wear it. I absolutely would wear it. But yeah, it is kind of funny that the hat is made into this symbol of her belonging. And she gets bullied.
She gets bullied by Second Lieutenant Suzumi Hayama. He still hates her because his brother was in the Jeep that fell off the cliff that she swerved and knocked off, and then Godzilla stomped on. So he's like, why are you here? You're going to get us all killed. And then there's like the tough guy, Lieutenant Tagashi, who was the one who was like, Akane, you need to be in the Kiryu Squadron. Like, the entire point of you being in the Kiryu Squadron is because I'm saying that you should be in the Kiryu Squadron. And then he shuts him down. But there's that tension now because it's like Akane feels alone, especially because there's this one character who's like, you did this mistake and I don't like you for it.
And listen, I'm fine with this conflict.
Yeah.
This is a great conflict. Guess what? This is also the conflict between characters in Pacific Rim. Like, this is totally good. This is good writing. I love this tension. And then they have to like work together and blah, blah, blah. My problem is that I don't buy her character. Like, I still don't think she's a very well-written character, you know? Yeah. And also, if she was a guy, she'd still be a badly written character too. Like, this, if she was a guy, I'd be ragging on the fact that she sucks as well. If anything, I'd be harsher. But yeah, I don't think they've set up their protagonist to succeed.
But see, here's the thing though. It's important that she's a woman, because that means that Dr. Yuhara can flirt with her.
Which I hate. Get away from her, old man.
No, see, because Dr. Yuhara, he sees her in, like, the squadron lineup, and he's immediately smitten, and he's a single father, so it's like, you know, he's looking around, he's on the mingle, he's in the market. So he, like, flirts with Akane, and at one point he's just like, hey, when you go out to fight Godzilla, if you win, I'll buy you dinner, and if you lose, well, you're gonna need some pick-me-up, so I'll buy you dinner then, too. So win or lose, I'll buy you dinner, baby. Except a lot more awkward.
It's awful, guys. It's god awful. There has been good romances in these movies.
Like in the first one.
Yes. Oh my God. You want to talk about an age gap romance where I was like, oh, it's so tragic. I wish that she liked him. Yes, original Godzilla. Once again, original Godzilla. All others need not apply. I love a good romance in these movies. This is not a good one. He just sees her and immediately like comes onto her. And I know maybe some people are like, oh, would, so he can't like compliment her or he can't express his interest. Sure. It's not written well though. No. Like, it isn't written very well. He has a very shallow sort of character. And again, her being like the only female character, it's just standing out as incredibly awkward. And she's way younger than him, which I'm totally here for age gap relationships. One of my most problematic one of my most problematic toxic traits is that I love Indiana Jones and Marion in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like, I love this shit. I know in the script maybe she was a bit too young, but they don't say that in the movie, so you can't come at me. The script isn't canon. It's what the movie is what's canon. And even if she was a teenager, again, there's still like, it's whatever. Like I'm not ragging on this because he's older than her or because like it's poorly written. They have no chemistry. He's just immediately like, hot young woman, come be my wife and daughter, or
help me
mother.
raise my daughter.
Yeah, raise my daughter for me. And I'm like, and this is what I'm saying is like some of the worst tendencies of these movies is rearing its head here. Like this is like really the thing that I'm like bumping on a lot in regards to the sexist writing, is that suddenly now she's not really a very well written character, and then now she's just here to be like oogled and poorly flirted with by this old man to be the stepmom to his daughter.
I want to push back against that a little bit because I think Dr. Yuhara's awkward flirtations with her and her just complete non-receptiveness to it highlights her character arc in this film of being kind of emotionally dead. Like Akane doesn't believe that she is deserving of having a relationship, you know? Like she is fully focused on killing Godzilla, but other than that, she is completely subsumed with the guilt of what she did.
Sure.
And so Dr. Yuhara flirting with her and her just being completely non-responsive highlights that part of her character. And we do get a payoff of that, you know, at the end of the movie, which I do wish that they explored more in Tokyo SOS, but
they immediately drop it. I was fine with it because I don't like this subplot.
But I think that's the point. It's like there is supposed to be this feeling of like Dr. Yuhara awkwardly flirting against a brick wall to highlight Akane's mindset. And it's also the perfect delivery for Akane to bond with his daughter Sarah, so they can have that like conversation of finding out about Sarah's tragic backstory and having that later conversation about, you know, the worth of all life. Like Dr. Yuhara is not the one that breaks her out of her mindset. It's his daughter Sarah.
Yes.
And I like that.
Yes. Absolutely. I think you could achieve that without him like coming on to her. Like you could still have her bonding with like this little girl who's in a male dominated military base, seeing this like young woman who's kicking ass or whatever. She'd be like obsessed with her. When I was like a little girl and there was like some, you know, like a teenager or like a college age woman or whatever, who like somebody who was younger than my mom, I was like, oh my God, you're so cool. I want to be just like you, you know? So it's like, that would naturally happen anyway, which maybe the writers don't know this because they're men. That like the only little girl in this base and the only woman in this base, she's gonna like be drawn to her, you know? Like I think we could still do that without the awkward flirting. / there's a better way. Like there's plenty of awkward like I like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's all Scott being like awkward flirting with Ramona, and he's like a huge asshole. Is like stringing along Knives Chow. Like I just don't think it's like well written.
I think we're rolling back into the tendency of a female main character focused on fighting Godzilla, and then once the Godzilla problem is dealt with, then she can return to her deserved final state of being a wife.
Yeah, which the fact that it keeps happening over and over and over again is just, it's like, oh, so this is like the only path for women. It's weird. It feels very much like, okay, ladies, World War II is over. Time to get out of the factory and go be housewives because the men are home from the war. You know, it's so like weird and awkward and clunky, and it happens over and over and over again. So I'm like, we're just leaning on the same old story instead of doing anything like new or interesting. And again, I think that you could have this happen where she has actual like chemistry, like you can have a romance happening that feels more genuine and authentic and is more interesting, they just don't do that. It feels like they rely on very basic tropes rather than like these two characters care about each other and they want to be together and they can't because of everything that's going on. So there's like tension surrounding their romance. And we're like, there's yearning because there's a lot of things going on. It's just like, they're not putting like work into these relationships for me. It's just like, oh, well, she's a woman, so she should get married and settle down and have a kid. Like, it's like, oh, this is the default. And that's what's supposed to happen. So we're not going to put any work into it. Cause I'm like, half the time this happens, I'm like, does she even like him? Because like so often it's like, I don't think she even likes him. And half the time it's like, he likes her, but I don't think he could tell you anything about her. You know, like there's just not, it's just lazy. There's not work put into it. I want some real, I want some
You want
pizzazz.
some real Godzilla romance.
Yes, I want work put into my Godzilla romances. And you know who does that? Godzilla -1. Godzilla -1 has such a good romance. I watched Godzilla -1 and I watched Godzilla, and both of those had great, well-written romances and a tragic romance, like one-sided. It was so good, and every other movie since just fucking shits the bed on it. I mean, some of them worse than others. Some of them have been fine. I'm sure if you go back in I can't think of any standouts off the top of my head, but I'm sure some of them have been like, yeah, this is fine. And guess what? I like whatever little things going on in Tokyo SOS, probably because they're not really like leaning too hard into any particular like they do the shonen romance thing where they're like, oh, we're not gonna.
Okay. Well, once again, we'll go into Tokyo SOS when we get into it. We've talked about romance enough, so now we need to get into the meat and potatoes of this movie.
Actual the good parts.
Kiryu is shown off to the world. Missiles, jets, and a chest beam known as the Absolute Zero Cannon, which instantly freezes the atoms of any target. Awesome.
Yeah, I love the boo cannon.
I do also love that they specify like this also takes like 40% of the power charge of the mech. So it's like we've got 1, maybe 2 shots at this.
Love it.
Yeah, no, it's
love
great.
The stakes being established.
And then like while they're doing the government show off of Kiryu, that's when Godzilla attacks Tokyo Bay.
Great.
So let's send in Kiryu to fight Godzilla. He comes in, we see the baseball player, they drop him off of the jets, and now they're piloting Kiryu to fight Godzilla. And the two duke it out, shooting missiles, trading blows, all that good stuff. And then the most famous part of this movie, Godzilla roars, and we do that shot where the camera like shoots right into Kiryu's eyes, and Kiryu freaks out. The spirit of the original Godzilla is still within the bones of this giant cyborg mecha and takes over. Like all the pilots, they're like, oh, we can't fire the Absolute Zero Cannon. All of our controls it's not working. And then like as Godzilla goes back into the ocean because he got hit with some missiles, so he's like, fuck this. That's when Kiryu just immediately turns around and starts rampaging through the city, doing even more destruction than Godzilla would.
1, I love that suddenly Godzilla gets hit by a few missiles and is like, never mind, when normally not an issue. 2, Mechagodzilla's haunted.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Love it.
This is the most interesting part of the movie, that the ghost of the original Godzilla is within the bones that are used for this giant cyborg mecha. There is a psychic resonance from beyond the grave that has now taken over this giant robot. This is not Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, where Mechagodzilla is just a giant robot. Basically the same as like Mogera and Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
This is some Five Nights at Freddy's shit.
Kiryu is a character.
Yeah.
And what do we do with that? Nothing!
Yep.
Ah!
Because,
Ah!
like, I'll, you know me, guys. I always get so nitpicky over the human stuff going on, you know? And Kevin gets really nitpicky over the kaiju stuff going on. And now we get to both be nitpicky and persnickety. Because neither thing is working.
I'm so mad. It's so interesting. it's such a cool concept, especially right after GMK, where Godzilla is the amalgamation of all the dead from the Pacific Theater of World War II.
Yeah.
And now we have giant mecha made from the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla, but the spirit of the original 1954 Godzilla is in there, and it is powerful enough to go outside of its programming and take over the robot. And it's such an interesting concept. It presents an interesting problem. It presents a very interesting dynamic where you could have the main pilot, Akane, actually bond with the giant robot and figure out, like, okay, now this what we thought was a tank is actually a character, and we have to examine its motivations and get it on our side. And no, screw all that.
Would you say that there's a ghost in the machine?
There's a ghost in the machine, and then we forget about it.
Yeah.
This movie makes me so mad.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, like, it's interesting idea, terrible no execution. They're uninterested in exploring it. They're uninterested in doing any work. It's the same thing with the human characters. They introduce something that could be interesting, but they don't have any inclination to do any work towards actually executing it. So now you have a problem where the kaiju storyline and the human storyline, which could so easily both individually be more interesting and then dovetail together really nicely, they're just not doing that.
Yeah. You have a main character who's haunted by her mistakes, and you have a giant cyborg mecha, which is literally haunted. And you have this setup of, like, okay, so, and this is a cool thing in the giant mecha genre. It's like, now the pilot has to bond with her giant robot in order to get them to work together, and we don't do that. Instead, they have to wait an hour for Kiryu to run out of power before they can decommission it. And then also there's a point where Kiryu just walks straight through a building, and I think that's very cool. But I just want to put that in there.
Yeah, I mean, the effects are great.
Yeah, the effects are great.
The effects are great. Action's pretty good.
But like Dr. Yuhara, he identifies that the Godzilla roar gave Kiryu a PTSD flashback and activated the ghost of the 1954 Godzilla. And then they do like a really quick, like, okay, I'm going to try to program some countermeasures. And it's like, no, that's not going to work because the spirit overcame all of the programming. More programming countermeasures aren't going to work. Kiryu's now a character. It has motivations. There's even Sarah. Okay, let me get into this scene real quick. So
yeah, we could be talking about grief, but no.
Well, this is as close as they get to it. So they have a scene where Sarah, Dr. Yuhara, and Akane are in the hangar looking over Kiryu. Now, they've sunk enough money into Kiryu that even after a clusterfuck this big, it's still like, well, we have no other options to fight Godzilla, so we just kind of have to keep it around. But like Sarah sympathizes with Kiryu, and she believes that Kiryu is a living being that is being forced to fight Godzilla, and humans were responsible for the first Godzilla with, the A-bomb, and maybe messing with Godzilla's skeleton is the cause of the second Godzilla. And, maybe we shouldn't be messing with it. And it's the movie itself being like, this is a theme that we're going to touch. And they don't. But then Akane also sympathizes with Kiryu, believing both their lives are worthless. And Sarah gets mad and storms off. And once again, we could have a great... I'm sorry. I need to roll back. I'm getting like the incredible loss of potential here.
Yeah.
Anyway. So... But we have a scene where we touch on the theme a little bit, but you have these characters who are looking into the camera and saying, Kiryu is a living being with motivations. And then we don't solve that. We don't actually treat Kiryu like a living being. We're just going to kind of ignore that it rampaged. And it's such a big blind spot in this film. So, especially because the movie is pointing at the blind spot.
Yeah.
Anyway. So let me go into the tragic backstory here of Dr. Yuhara and Sarah. So Dr. Yuhara explains that Sarah's mother was pregnant. So Sarah was born, and the mom was pregnant with what would be her sibling. But there were complications, and the doctor was like, well, we can save either the mother or the baby. And Dr. Yuhara wanted to save the wife. The wife wanted the baby, and Sarah wanted them both to live, and then they both died.
Classic mom dies in childbirth.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But don't even get the child, though.
I know. It's this.
So it's weird though, because this is like another sibling. So it's not Sarah was born at the cost of her mother's life, which would also give her the same survivor's guilt as Akane. It's Sarah wants the optimistic route of,
Because she's a child.
yeah, of both living beings surviving, which touches on her being like, hey, maybe we shouldn't force Kiryu to fight Godzilla, and maybe Kiryu doesn't want to fight Godzilla, but we're going to do it anyway because we're not actually going to explore this theme. But that's the thing. It's like Sarah has her own kind of, not even survivor's guilt, because she was just messed up by her mom dying. And then Akane finds Sarah, and Akane says that her life is worthless. And then Sarah's like, no, life is worthless, especially not Akane's. And also, I believe that Kiryu is a living being, but we're not going to actually give Kiryu autonomy. Anyway.
Yeah. And I'm also like, sometimes the whole, oh, mom dies in childbirth, which, like, yes, okay, this is something that happens. And historically, like, childbirth is incredibly dangerous. Childbirth is still dangerous. Like, pregnancy and childbirth is still dangerous, even with modern medicine. So this is a very real and realistic thing that many women have died giving birth or from pregnancy complications. So this is a trope that is rooted in a lot of reality. I think sometimes it is handled in fiction, like when you do it in fiction, sometimes it is handled better, and sometimes it just feels like kind of, I don't know, like it feels kind of sexist sometimes, where it's like, okay, great, yeah, another mom dies in another childbirth complication. Like, once again, that's all what moms do in fiction. You know what I mean? Like, it feels overused. And with all of the other weird little things happening with women in this movie, I'm just like, of course, you know? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if it was just by itself, then I wouldn't even notice it. But it's like, once again, it just kind of adds in with everything. And I'm like, what is going on with the way that the movie, like, views women here? And yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it feels, I get that they needed to do something to have the kid, like, have this grief to mirror Akane's grief. And the larger thing of, like, Mechagodzilla or Kiryu's grief. But again, they don't really explore it very much. They don't really tie it together very much. So then it just kind of comes off as like another lazy trope, rather than, because tropes and cliches, well, I mean, everything is a trope, so jot that down. But cliches and tropes can work out really, really well if you're actually exploring it and you're doing it for a good reason and it's a part of the theme. But if you're not really, you know, following that thread through, if you're not really like making a point out of it, then it just comes off as another lazy trope.
Yeah.
You know?
And like I said earlier, like, psychic resonance with the mech that you're piloting is a trope in the mecha genre, because it is a great delivery system for communicating the mental well-being of a pilot in a high-stress combat situation, and also making the mech a character that the human character can bounce off of, and showing like cooperation and division and all of that.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. And when the movie has a character look at Kiryu and be like, Kiryu is a living being that does not want to fight Godzilla, and presents that conflict, and the solution to the conflict is, we're going to have him fight Godzilla again anyway, and it's going to be fine this time.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It's going to work. We did something with the DNA computers and now it's going to work. And we're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Cool.
I think the thing with Sarah's mom dying, like, because Sarah is the one that convinces Akane that her life has meaning simply by being a human life. And are like, oh, Sarah has this idea because her mom died with her, like, unborn sibling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, okay, I don't know that I fully, like, that small child is actually going to come away with that. Like, I think the mom should have died in a different way.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I mean,
it's
it's fine. I don't know. It doesn't.
So
I think because they don't really do anything with it, it makes it fall flatter for me.
I will say that they do explore the theme of all lives are precious.
Great.
That is the thing that kind of starts to break Akane out of her like guilt haunting. And they do also do something interesting with Hayama, which is the soldier that keeps reminding Akane of her mistake. During the first fight between Kiryu and Godzilla, Kiryu actually brings down Hayama's white heron, so Akane actually has to leave the fight to save him before his white heron explodes.
Yeah.
And then we have a later scene where Hayama like confronts her. It's like, hey, I've only been giving you shit. I still hate you. Why did you save my life? And then we actually have a pretty good scene where the rest of the Kiryu squadron back up Akane.
Yeah.
And I do think that the character arc of Akane feels she is alone in this world because she is haunted by her grief and her guilt and believes she doesn't deserve it. And then the movie going like, no, actually Akane has multiple people backing her up, both her squadron members as well as, Yuhara and his daughter. I think that was actually done pretty well.
Yes.
As much as I harp on the big blind spot with Kiryu as a character, I do believe that they put in some work with Akane's character arc here.
Yeah, that part was good. That worked well. Sorry, I had, while you're saying that, I had the thought of like, what would make me feel. I think that Sarah's mom should have committed suicide. I think if Sarah's mom was depressed and committed suicide, and you can say that it was postpartum depression. Maybe she lost the baby and like couldn't get over that guilt and ended up committing suicide. I think that would dovetail Sarah's every life is precious. It doesn't, like, you are not worthless. I think that's how you make it work thematically so much stronger rather than just being woman dies in childbirth, dead mom trope. Because that doesn't fit thematically with what's going on. Like, one of the best woman dies in childbirth, dead mom tropes is in, like, House of the Dragon with Rhaenyra Targaryen's mom dying in childbirth, because it's all about how, like, the Targaryen dynasty and Westeros's power structure, like, chews women up and spits them out and uses them.
Self-destruction in the name of bringing forth
in the
more
name
of your
power,
legacy.
because they needed a son, and like that all works really, really well. Like, the misogyny in that world really is very useful to its themes, and is like that's great, that's wonderful. But this was just like the death didn't. That's what it was. The dead mom trope. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, whatever, this work. Like because it's about
Kayla
grief.
Knutson is fine with dead moms.
Well, when the story's about grief,
yeah, fair.
Somebody has to be dead. But the specific manner of the death is what I was bumping on. I wasn't accepting it. It wasn't working for me. If she had committed suicide, either because of postpartum depression or regular depression or whatever, some sort of grief that she couldn't live through, and killed herself rather than like live, I think, and suicide and
I
whatnot.
agree with you, because that's brilliant, because then you have Sarah looking at Akane and, like, even as a small child being like, I recognize when someone is so sad that they can kill themselves about it.
Yeah.
And you are that level of sad.
Yeah. And I think I think that would have fixed it. And I also think it would have been kind of interesting because Japan has the kamikaze pilots. Yeah. And there are many
hey, Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, what's up, Godzilla -1? This is something that will be explored in Godzilla -1, but even, of course, Godzilla -1 hasn't come out yet. Even going into Godzilla, there has been sacrifices and honorable deaths throughout the Godzilla franchise. So maybe having this whole thing where Akane feels like she has to die, like she's so ready to die and willing to die, like to redeem herself for the mistake that happened in the second Godzilla attack. And then you have Sarah being like, no, don't do that. Like, convincing her otherwise, that her life still has worth. I think that would have been a lot stronger.
We do get that, though, with Hayama later.
Yes.
Which I think is also cool.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. First, the big fight. So Godzilla's back. The Prime Minister, who's the man.
Yes, the man is in charge.
The man Prime Minister. The man prime minister. So Godzilla's back. They do the tanks. They do the maser cannons. None of that's working. Lieutenant Tagashi comes up to the prime minister and is like, we need to send out Kiryu. And the prime minister is like, how do you know it won't rampage again this time? And like literally all Tagashi can say is like, we want it to not rampage this time.
Yeah.
Because this movie neglected to deal with that problem that it set up. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the prime minister is like, you know what? I like the cut of your jib. Yeah, deploy Kiryu.
Sure, deploy the weapon of mass destruction in a crowded urban area. That didn't go wrong at all last time.
No, you say you really want it to not rampage this time, so I believe you.
You
and
did
also,
some coding, and I guess it's fine now.
We literally have no other options.
You exercised the ghost with an HTML code.
Oh, God, yeah. So civilians and soldiers are evacuating. A nurse runs back into a building to save a child, and Godzilla sees that and is about to blast it with its atomic breath. And then Kiryu flies in and shoulder checks Godzilla out of the way.
It was really good.
It was pretty fun.
I was like, oh, that shit is moving way faster than it has any right to, but it was so cool. It felt very anime-esque.
Yeah.
I liked it. There's a lot of anime-esque situation, like anime-esque movements and also camera angles, which sometimes work better in an animated medium than a live-action medium, but it's fine.
It is just very funny to see just a giant monster shoulder check another monster.
It just slams into him.
Yeah. So they fight, and now this is the part of the podcast where Kevin gets to talk about the kaiju fighting mechanics.
Yes, if you were looking for positive reviews or the positive part of the podcast, you have reached it.
This is the best Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
Kiryu is the best designed, has the best weapons, has the best fighting style, at the very least, in Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a downgrade in Godzilla Tokyo SOS for plot reasons, but we'll get into that. So Kiryu, the way Kiryu fights is that Kiryu fights from a distance, because Kiryu has like a whole armada on his back. He fires missiles, he fires maser cannons, he's got a little like wrist laser sword, but that's really only for like, last chance occasions. And when Godzilla closes the distance, Kiryu also has side jets that allow him to like propel himself back, get out of range again, and then fire more ranged attacks at Godzilla. That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla damages Kiryu's like back jets and his rail guns and all that. So Kiryu can launch his back arsenal off of his back like he just unstrapped his jetpack and then just fires that at Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
So he just throws the guns right at him. But Kiryu can also fight in close quarters because at one point Kiryu grabs Godzilla by the tail, lifts him up, and swings him around.
Yeah.
Like Mario against Bowser. That's pretty fun. And Godzilla's down, so now it's time for the absolute zero cannon. We can't start with that because that's the finishing move, even though that's the only thing that is probably going to be able to kill Godzilla. But we got it. It takes a while to charge. We only get one shot, so we got to make sure it can count. So Godzilla's down the ground. They're readying the absolute zero cannon. The ghost hasn't taken over this time, so we might actually have it. And then Godzilla's eye opens up, and it's like, oh, what a stinker. He was faking. He fires his atomic breath, and the absolute zero cannon goes wild and disintegrates 3 skyscrapers, including the Prince Hotel. Real quick, this fun fact is for me specifically. So there is a YouTube series called Death Battle, where it's like Deadliest Warrior. They take 2 fictional characters and actually like do the research and see who would win a fight. I love it. There is an episode where they have the Dragon Sword from Power Rangers fight the Kiryu Mechagodzilla. And they did the research, and according to their math, the absolute zero cannon to be able to atomize those 3 real-life skyscrapers would have to output a force of 128.2 teratons of TNT.
Jesus Christ.
This is a ludicrous amount of energy.
Yeah.
And it misses.
Yeah. Then they fucking missed.
That fun fact was for me because I love that.
Yes, Kevin will text me every now and then. He's like, the next death battle is this. And every time I'm like, what?
Oh, right. Yeah, because you don't watch it. But also, so as of the time of this recording, the next death battle is Buffy the Vampire Slayer versus Blade. And I'm like, Kayla loves Buffy.
I do.
And then she doesn't watch it, but that's fine.
I I don't play the power scale game.
They also their latest one of the latest death battles that they did was Godzilla versus Hulk, and they specifically bring in singular point like Ultima Godzilla. So we're gonna be watching that later in the series as well.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Maybe we can do a bonus episode about that. I don't know. Anyway.
About Death Battle?
Yeah, the Death Battle Godzilla episodes, because they have Godzilla versus Gamera, Godzilla versus Hulk, the Mechagodzilla versus Dragon Zord. They have a few of them.
Okay.
Don't have a Mothra one yet, though.
Oh, well then no.
I know, right? So, Kiryu's damaged. The Absolute Zero Cannon was used. The remote piloting is on the fritz. Things are bad. So, Akane hops off her white heron jet, and she climbs into Kiryu to control him directly. To which I am yelling at the screen, why wasn't this a thing at the start? But whatever. And then she has a thing where she like talks to the spirit of Kiryu and says like, you and I are buddies, right? And it's like, I really feel like this should have been set up more. Maybe you should have had one scene where she's alone in the hangar having a conversation with Kiryu, just like her talking to the giant mech, but whatever.
I'd like to posit the obvious question of why would the ghost of 1954 Godzilla be interested in protecting Japan and the human race from one of its own kind?
Again, you make Kiryu a character with the motivations of 1954 Godzilla, and then you ignore the very interesting concept that you yourself put into the movie. Moving on. So the rest of the AMF distract Godzilla while Akane is doing this, and the government convinces the local power companies to give their power to Kiryu, which causes a blackout through Tokyo. And Kiryu gets blasted by atomic breath, and Akane inside Kiryu falls unconscious, but then she comes back up through the memory of all those people that support her. So once again, we're hitting the Akane character arc at least of you have people in your corner. Break out of your depression spiral.
Yeah, as much as I'm not necessarily convinced that you're the greatest pilot in Tokyo and this is why like you have to be like, as much as they don't set up her skill as a pilot, the character arc itself, like her grief and her not being alone, like yeah, they do fine with that.
Yeah. They set her up as a determinator. They set her getting up out of her grief. The movie sets up that this will be symbiotic with Kiryu, and then they don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I'm annoyed by. But Akane in a vacuum by herself, they get her character arc right, and then they dump her in the sequel. But whatever.
I don't know why they brought her, but whatever.
Whatever.
We'll talk about that next episode.
So Kiryu's back up. Akane's in the robot, the mech, the cyborg, cyber-necromancy mech. Kiryu. She's in the Kiryu, and Hayama, the soldier that's been giving her shit the whole movie, flies his white heron into Godzilla's second atomic breath blast, and it hits his wing, and then his jet ends up in Godzilla's mouth. So now he's in a broken jet that's in Godzilla's mouth, and Hayama is yelling in the communicator, don't worry about me, take the shot, take the shot.
Seriously, don't worry about him. I think he has deadly radiation sickness now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you are inside Godzilla's mouth, like, you have turbo cancer.
I mean, he just unleashed the atomic breath, and it didn't hit you directly, obviously, but it hit your plane. Like, he dead.
Yeah, you're going to have to be quarantined for at least 10 days there, son.
He's not going to make it 10 days.
Yeah, it's that one scene in Chernobyl where the guy's just outside for like 5 more seconds than he should. Anyway, so instead, Akane does not sacrifice his life because all lives are not worthless. So while charging up the Absolute Zero Cannon, Kiryu itself charges Godzilla, grabs him by the head, throws away, like literally takes Hayama's jet out of Godzilla's mouth. Like exactly. Like he's a disbehaving dog. And Akane flies her, Kiryu, and Godzilla out into the sea. And as they hit the water,
but she throws the plane up in the air, and he ejects. But it's so funny because at first I didn't realize, like, right before he ejects, I'm like, oh, he's just gonna die. Like, he's still gonna die because the plane's
still a free falling jet.
She's gonna throw half a jet into a building. I mean, theoretically, the jet probably did hit a building and killed a bunch of people. So congratulations, you saved him, but you killed 50 civilians.
And if this was GMK, they would show that.
Yeah.
There's so many scenes in GMK where like Mothra flies past the building that gets blown up, and then we see like 50 people die.
Yeah.
But no, this is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. He ejects, he lives.
Yeah, and the plane totally doesn't land anywhere that's gonna hurt anybody.
And then, well, I mean, that whole city's screwed at this point, which they show in Godzilla Tokyo SOS, which
Yeah.
we'll get into that as well. So Kiryu and Godzilla and Akane go into the ocean, and right as they hit the water, the absolute zero cannon hits, and then there's a giant pillar of ice, and it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pillar of ice breaks, and then emerging from the water, it's Godzilla.
You missed again.
He's not dead. He has a giant chest scar.
Oh yeah.
But the producer didn't want a lot of blood, which was apparently like the director wanted a lot of blood and the producer didn't. So producer wins. So he gets a giant chest scar instead, and he comes out of the water. And then he's, this Godzilla is one who, after he gets hurt, is just like, screw it, I'm leaving. So he goes into the ocean, and then Kiryu comes out from the water, but Kiryu's like missing an arm. It's on his last legs. Like, this is a draw. And so the final shot of the film, at least before the after credits scene, is Akane standing on the shoulder of Kiryu, watching Godzilla go back into the water. Very cool shot.
Yeah.
And then the after credits scene, we see Akane, Dr. Yuhara, and Sarah watch Kiryu being repaired in the AMF hangar. And Dr. Yuhara says that he can take Akane out to dinner now that she won against Godzilla. But Akane refuses because she's like, the battle was a draw. I didn't win or lose. So I'm going to take you out to dinner, Dr. Yuhara. And it's like, oh, that's a spin.
That's a
good
cute
spin.
Yeah, that moment in a vacuum is cute. That's fine.
And then she exits and she salutes Kiryu, acknowledging that Kiryu is a being that she is working with, but they never figured out how to convince Kiryu to have his motivations align with killing Godzilla, which multiple characters said that he probably doesn't want to kill Godzilla, but whatever.
I really think that if they weren't going to do anything with the ghost of Godzilla 1954 literally haunting this giant cyborg robot mech thing.
Such a cool concept.
Which is an interesting concept. And of course, then you have to figure out, well, how do you convince the ghost of 1954 Godzilla inhabiting this giant mech machine cyborg Godzilla fighter thing to actually, you should defend Japan.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do that, then you never should, you shouldn't have introduced that concept that the bones are haunted. The problem is that they needed to have conflict in the movie by having the mech go wrong. And so they're like, oh, if it's activated by the roar of the other Godzilla and then it goes haywire and blah, 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 there's our conflict, which you've introduced something interesting that you didn't do anything with. So you shouldn't have done that. Either something else goes wrong with it that you have to repair, or Godzilla attacks before Kiryu is done, and they have to launch Kiryu at minimum facilities. It's not fully operational, it's not done, it's not quote unquote ready, it's not fully online, but now Godzilla is attacking, they have no other defense. Fuck it, send it out there. And then it fails because it's not finished yet. And now we have the obstacles of we have to repair it and finish it in time, et cetera, et cetera. There's doubts about whether or not even a finished Kiryu would be able to stand against Godzilla, this or that or whatever. And you present it as Kiryu was not ready for combat or failed in combat the same way that Akane did at the beginning, and you do it like that.
Yeah. You have to, if you say that Kiryu is a character, then you have to have the other characters, or at least one of them, acknowledge Kiryu as a character and work with them to get their motivations to align. And they don't do that, and it's a giant blind spot in the movie. And they do have a much better resolution for it in Godzilla Tokyo SOS. But I do think that there's so many different ways that you could go around that conflict, but presenting the interesting conflict and then refusing to address the conflict after you present it is maddening.
Yeah,
me.
but the whole movie is littered with lazy writing.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was really weird, and this isn't lazy writing, I just thought it was weird. Sarah has a plant. I can't remember the name of the plant.
It's like sleeping grass.
Yeah, but it's when you touch it, it moves.
Yeah.
Not because you've touched it, like it has a reflex.
I was about to say, when I watched the movie for the first time, I'm like, that's what happens with all plants.
Yeah, when you touch it, it moves. No, it's like a Venus flytrap, where when you touch it, it reacts. And it was something like her mom gave it to her, or at first I was like, is this plant haunted? Is this like Biolante? The ghost of her mom is stuck in the plant. I just want to watch Biolante again.
Give us more ghosts.
Yeah.
We already have Ghost Godzilla in the machine.
Right? So, but anyway, the plant represents like her grief for her mom, and she's hanging onto this plant. And Akane tells Sarah, "Oh, I had one of those when I was a kid too." And at one point, she tells Sarah something about like, you can't keep that plant forever.
Yeah.
Like you have to let it go. And it's like, oh, okay. So she's trying to tell her eventually, you have to move through your grief. Akane is not doing a very good job of dealing with her grief. So a little bit weird that she's trying to tell Sarah to do better at her grief, And then Sarah like gets rid of the plant. I'm like, I don't think Sarah needed to get rid of the plant. I feel like Sarah was really coping with her mom's untimely death as well as any small child could. Like,
Yeah.
I never got the impression that Sarah was not coping or grieving in a manner that was not like appropriate or expected. In fact, she seemed to do really pretty well, actually, like in terms of her grief and whatnot. Like she was functioning really well for a small child who lost her mom. It's a little unclear exactly how long ago it was, So and then at the end of the movie, Sarah's like, "Oh, I got rid of the plant," and we're supposed to take that. The movie clearly wants you to make it think like, "Oh, Sarah is now over her grief," or is which I hate when movies or stories or whatever kind of treat grief as something that you move through and then like you're done with it, because that's not how grief works. You will be grieving the rest of your life. Like that's just how it. I mean, when it's something like your parent that you loved and had a good relationship with, that's a grief that never really ends. Grief is just a part of living. You carry it until you die yourself. And that doesn't mean that it incapacitates you for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that you can't learn how to cope and live with it. Like the whole point of grief is that you continue to grow around it. It never really goes away, but it gets smaller in comparison to, it doesn't get smaller, but your life continues to get bigger around it, kind of a thing. And it just felt really weird to me that the movie just had her get rid of the plant. It felt like clunky.
It's a simplistic metaphor for getting past your grief.
Yeah, it felt unnecessary and clunky. And again, just symptomatic. Again, all of these things, I could maybe any of these nitpicks or any of these criticisms, I could forgive one of them. But again and again and again, they stack up. And it's just, ugh.
Yeah. Okay, so just want to end on another fun fact here real quick. So Hamtaro,
Yes, I love Hamtaro.
Yes, the anime about a hamster and all of their hamster friends.
Yes.
So Hamtaro was very popular around this time.
Yes.
And in fact, Hamtaro movies were being double billed with these Godzilla movies.
That's hilarious.
GMK had a theatrical release double billed with Hamtaro Adventures in Ham Ham Land. And the theatrical release of Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla was accompanied by the Hamtaro feature film Hamtaro the Captive Princess. And the next Godzilla film will also be double billed with another Hamtaro movie. For 3 movies in a row, Godzilla and Hamtaro are theatrically released with each other.
On next episode of Gorilla Whale, fuck the lizard, we're watching Hamtaro. It's my childhood now, Kevin.
So one of the little girls in this movie, there's a scene early on where Sarah's hanging out with a bunch of other little kids, and one of the little girls in the movie is holding a little container with a hamster in it,
Yeah.
and she is dressed exactly like the main human character of Hamtaro, Laura Haruna.
Love it.
So you could see this as a little homage,
Yeah.
or you could see this as Godzilla and Hamtaro existing in the same cinematic universe.
Irradiate that hamster! Battle Royale!
All right. What would you rate this movie?
This is going to be on the lower end. It's fun. I mean, there were parts of it that did work very well.
Yeah.
And the fighting was good. The effects were good. But there was just a lot of, like, I was bothered that they did nothing with the Ghost of 1954. I was bothered with a lot of the missteps that I felt were happening with the human characters, which the missteps that happen with the human characters bother me even more when they do some things, like, really well. Because I'm like, I think you could have figured this out. I'm going to say 2 out of 5. Maybe 2.5 out of 5.
I'm gonna give this the Hedera score of 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Because I think just how I rated Hedera 3 out of 5. It's like this movie does a lot of things really well, and it does a lot of things not great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the blind spot of introducing Kiryu as a character and then not dealing with that conflict is just
it's sloppy. There's a lot of things that were really sloppy.
It brings everything else down, even though they're like I said, I geeked out over the actual like Kiryu and Godzilla fights.
Mm-hmm.
I think Akane is, even though she's the same character as the main character from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, I think she's a better character.
She's a better version of that.
Better version of that character. It's like, oh, this is round 2 of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. She's a better version of that character, but I still, like I said, I still have issues with how the movie, like, I still think that the movie is lazy in setting her up as such a good pilot, because it doesn't really, the movie doesn't let her earn that. The movie doesn't put effort into convincing us of that. And I am the first person, like, when, for example, to make references to something our audience has probably seen, when Force Awakens came out and Rey was good at fighting, there were some sections of the fandom who felt that was not earned, that Rey being good at fighting was not earned. She was just like, it was a Mary Sue tendency. I don't think I didn't feel that was a legitimate grievance. I'm like, she's an outcast living on a desert planet in this violent world where she has had to struggle to survive.
I see. So we're wading into even more fandom discourse here.
Yeah.
Like we're already saying that some Godzilla movies are bad, but
yes.
You want to get into Star Wars
now
discourse
we're getting into
the Rey stuff.
We've dabbled.
Yeah.
And so I think her being capable in a fight is something that we can extrapolate from her character quite easily. And Luke is a farm boy, and he's pretty capable at, flying an X-Wing off the bat, because we know that he does pilot simulations and he wants to go to the thing. Like, I have no problems buying any of that. My problem with buying Akane being like such a good pilot is that she messes up in battle, and then they go in and they're like, but you're a genius.
Mm-hmm.
How could this have happened? And they're kind of like, she choked. And then she does a physical fitness montage to do the pilot program.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep harping on her capabilities. Like, her capabilities are a huge plot point, but they don't really demonstrate any of that very well, other than just saying, but you're a genius pilot. And it's like, well, but she was doing a tank thing.
Yeah,
like it just.
I'm bringing my score down to 2.5 out of 5 actually, because now that I think about it, Hedora took big swings, and while the delivery was off, they still followed through on those swings. And I think the main thing sticking in my teeth with Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla is they took a big swing and then they didn't follow through on the swing.
Yeah,
like the delivery could be off as long as they like tried, but they presented it, and then they quit the 2-act show at the end of Act 1.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think and just real quick, with Rey, the criticism of her being, really good at fighting right away, quote unquote, or whatever, is that people would say it's unrealistic.
Okay, I feel like we've hit that territory already with your previous explanation. with like talking about like Rey's combat prowess.
I'm just using it as an example.
Okay.
I don't think that it's unrealistic that Akane is a genius pilot.
Yeah.
I'm mad that they show don't tell.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying is that to clarify, the criticism of Rey is usually it's quote unquote unrealistic, not it's show versus tell. For me specifically on Akane, it's show versus tell, not that it's unrealistic. Of course it's realistic. She's in the military, like she had training, blah blah blah. I can buy that she's a good pilot. I don't think that they really show us that she's a prodigy. They just tell us that she's a prodigy, and then they're like, and like that's the conflict on her character. So that's it.
All right. Well, speaking of show don't tell, why don't you tell us what's the next movie we're watching?
Next, we'll be watching Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Be sure to watch the Japanese version, not the English dub. If you liked this podcast, be sure to subscribe, give us a rating, leave a comment, and share with a friend. Follow us on social media. We got the links in the show notes. We also have a Ko-fi. You can support us there and get access to cool bonus content like extra episodes and access to the private Discord, where you can talk with other geeks about Godzilla and all things Digital Kaiju. Check it out. Gorilla Whale is a production of Digital Kaiju Studios. It is hosted and produced by Kevin Carpenter and Kayla Knutson. Gorilla Whale has no official affiliation with Toho, Legendary, or any other companies associated with the Godzilla franchise. We thank you for watching along with us. Until next time, watch out for kaiju.
Watch out for kaiju.